Poverty is the root cause of chaos, while peace is the guarantee for development. Development holds the key to solving all problems. China supports the settlement of African issues by Africans in the African way. We are of the view that in resolving security issues, both the symptoms and the root causes must be addressed in a holistic way. China stands ready to take an active part in Africa's efforts in capacity building for maintaining and strengthening peace and security, and support Africa in its endeavors to speed up development, eradicate poverty, and realize durable peace. Fifth, we should remain committed to solidarity and cooperation in international affairs. China and Africa share common position on and interests in a wide range of international issues. We should strengthen coordination and collaboration so as to make the global governance system more just and equitable and uphold our common interests. China will continue to stand up and speak for Africa at the United Nations and other international fora to support Africa in playing a greater international role. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to build China-Africa comprehensive strategic and cooperative partnership, China will implement 10 cooperation plans with Africa in the next 3 years, guided by the principle of government guidance, business being the major actors, market operation, and win-win cooperation. These plans aim at addressing 3 bottleneck issues holding back Africa's development, namely inadequate infrastructure, lack of professional and skilled personnel, and funding shortage, accelerating Africa's industrialization and agricultural modernization, and achieving sustainable self-development. First, we will implement China-Africa Industrialization Plan. China will actively promote industrial alignment and production capacity cooperation between China and Africa, and encourage more Chinese enterprises to make business investment in Africa. In cooperation with Africa, we will build or upgrade a number of industrial parks, send senior government experts and advisors to Africa, and set up regional, vocational education centers and several schools for capacity building. China will also train 200,000 technical personnel and provide 40,000 training opportunities for African personnel in China. Second, we will implement China-Africa Agricultural Modernization Plan. China will share its experience in agricultural development with Africa and transfer readily applicable technologies to it. We encourage Chinese enterprises to engage in large-scale farming, animal husbandry, and grain storage and processing in Africa to create more local jobs and increase farmers' income. China will carry out agricultural development projects in 100 African villages to raise rural living standards, send 30 teams of agricultural experts to Africa, and establish a 10+10 cooperation mechanism between Chinese and African agricultural research institutes. China is greatly concerned about the poor harvest caused by El Nino in many African countries and will provide 1 billion RMB yuan worth of emergency food aid to the affected countries.
三是中非基础设施合作计划。
Third,
中方将同
Third, we will implement China-Africa Infrastructure Cooperation Plan. China will step up mutually beneficial cooperation with Africa in infrastructure planning, design, construction, operation, and maintenance. We support Chinese enterprises' active participation in Africa's infrastructural development, particularly in sectors such as railways, roads, regional aviation, ports, electricity, and telecommunications to enhance Africa's capacity for sustainable development. We will also support African countries in building and upgrading 5 transportation universities.
四是中非金融合作计划。
Fourth,
中方将同非洲
we
国家
will
扩大人民
implement
币结算
China-Africa
和本地
Financial
付款业务
Cooperation Plan.
鼓励中国
China
金
will
融机构
expand its
同非洲
RMB
设立
settlement
更
and
多的
currency swap
分支机构
operations with African countries,
以多种方式
encourage Chinese
扩大对非洲
financial institutions
投融资合作
to set up more branches in
为非洲
Africa
工业化
and
和
increase
现代
its
化
investment and
提供
financing
金融支
cooperation
持
with Africa
和
in
服务
multiple ways to provide financial support and services for
五是
Africa's
中非
industrialization
绿色发
and
展合作计划
modernization drive. Fifth, we will implement China-Africa Green Development Plan.
增强绿色
China will support Africa in bolstering its capacity for green, low carbon, and sustainable development, and support Africa in launching 100 projects to develop clean energy, protect wildlife, promote environment-friendly agriculture, and
城市建设项目
build smart cities.
中非合作绝不以牺牲
China-Africa
非洲
cooperation
生态
will
环境
never be pursued
和长远
at
利
the
益
expense of
为代价
Africa's ecosystem and long-term interests.
六是中非贸
Sixth,
易和投资
we
便利化
will
合作计划
implement China-Africa Trade and Investment
中方将
Facilitation
实施
Plan.
50个
China will
促进
carry
贸
out
易援助项目
50 aid for trade
支
programs
持非洲改
to
善
improve
内外贸
Africa's
和
capacity
投资
for
软硬条件
conducting internal and external
愿
trade
同非洲
and
国家和
investment.
区域组织商谈
China is ready
包括互
to
贸
negotiate with countries and regional organizations in Africa comprehensive free trade agreements covering trade in goods and services and investment cooperation and increase import of African
质
products.
检税务等执法
China will
能力
support African countries in enhancing law enforcement capacity in areas such as customs, quality inspection, and taxation. We will also engage in cooperation with Africa in standardization, certification, and e-commerce.
惠民合作计
Seventh,
划
we will implement China-Africa Poverty Reduction Plan.
中方将在加强自身
While
减贫努力的
intensifying
同
its
时
own poverty reduction efforts,
我这里要讲我们
I
在过
have
去
to
的
say
30多年
that in the past 30
一
years
共
and
消
more,
除了7亿
we lifted 700 million
为
people
联合
out
国
of
千年发展
poverty,
目标人类发展做出了贡献。
making contribution to the
但是我们目
achievement of
前在13亿
Millennium
人口
Development Goals and human
还有
development
现行
on the
标准
whole.
的7千万
However,
贫困人口。
we still have 70 million
那么我们决
people
心
living
在
under
未来的5
poverty.
年，也就是
We're
在
determined
2020年实现
in the
全面
next
小康
5
之际
years, by 2020, when we finish the building of a moderate, prosperous society in all respects, eradicate poverty comprehensively and completely. At the same time, we will
扶贫事业做出我们应有的贡
make our
献，
contribution to the international efforts
增加对非
in
援助，
poverty
在
alleviation.
非洲实施200个幸福生活工
We
程
will carry out in Africa
可以妇女儿童为
200 Happy
主要
Life
受益者的
projects
减贫
and
项目，
poverty reduction programs focusing on women
免
and
除非洲
children.
有关最不发达国家截止2015年年底
We will
到期
cancel
未还
outstanding
的
debts in the form of
政府间
bilateral governmental
无息
zero
贷款
interest
债务。
loans borrowed by the relevant least developed African countries that mature at the end of 2015.
8是中非公共卫生合作计划，
Eighth, we will implement
中方
China-Africa
将
Public
参与
Health
非洲疾
Cooperation
控中
Plan.
心等公共卫生防控体系
China will help
和能
Africa
力建
strengthen
设，
its public health prevention and
支
control
持中
system,
非各
as well
20
as
所医
capacity
院
building by
开展示
participating
范
in the
合作，
building of the African
加
Center
强
for
专业
Disease
科室
Control.
建设，
We will support pace-setting cooperation between 20 Chinese hospitals and 20 African hospitals and upgrade hospital departments. We will continue to send medical teams to Africa and provide medical assistance such as the Brightness Action Program and maternal and child care. We will provide more anti-malaria compound artemisinin to Africa and encourage and support local drug production by Chinese enterprises in Africa to increase Africans' access to medicine. Ninth, we will implement China-Africa cultural and people-to-people cooperation plan. China will build 5 cultural centers in Africa and provide satellite TV reception to 10,000 African villages. We will provide to Africa 2,000 educational opportunities with diplomas or degrees and 30,000 government scholarships. Every year, we will sponsor visits by 200 African scholars and study trips by 500 young Africans to China and train 1,000 media professionals from Africa. We support the opening of more direct flights between China and Africa to boost our tourism cooperation. Tenth, we will implement China-Africa Peace and Security Cooperation Plan. China will provide $60 million of grant to support the building and operation of the African Standby Force and the African capacity for the immediate response to crisis. China will continue to participate in UN peacekeeping missions in Africa and support African countries' capacity building in areas such as defense, counterterrorism, riot prevention, customs, and immigration control. To ensure the successful implementation of these 10 cooperation plans, China decides to provide a total of $60 billion of funding support. It includes $5 billion of grant and zero-interest loans, $35 billion of preferential facilities and export credit line, and concessional loans on more favorable terms. An increase of $5 billion to the China-Africa Development Fund and the special loan for the development for African SMEs respectively, and the China-Africa Fund of Production Capacity Cooperation with an initial contribution of $10 billion. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 15th anniversary of FOCAC. The past 15 years have seen fruitful progress in China-Africa practical cooperation across the board. Two-way trade in China's total non-financial investment in Africa in 2014 was 22 times and 60 times that of the year 2000, respectively, which shows China's contribution to Africa's economic development has risen significantly. FOCAC has become a pace-setter in China-Africa cooperation, an example of South-South cooperation, and a leader in increasing international attention to and input in Africa. China-Africa relations have today reached a stage of growth unmatched in history. We should scale the heights, look afar, and take bold
让我
steps.
们携手努力，
Let us join hands,
汇聚起中非
pull the
24亿
vision
人民
and
的智
strength
慧
of the
和力量，
2.4 billion Chinese
共
and
同开
Africans,
启中非合作共赢
and open a new
共同发
era
展
of China-Africa win-win
新时代。
cooperation and common
谢谢大家。
development. Thank you.